Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Wherever you are tuning in the world, I am broadcasting live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone to the episode 19 of Health is Wellness, hosted on the Minorities for Medical Marijuana platform. My name is NIcole Buffong. I am your host for today's show. So grateful to be here and joining you from Las Vegas, Nevada, and getting ready for our programming this afternoon here in Las Vegas, which is going to be a record-sealing resource fair that we're hosting here in Las Vegas. But before that, I am so grateful to be able to share this information with you about mental health and cannabis. There has been some chatter on the interwebs regarding cannabis and how it affects your mental health. And I've heard from many different sources. I've done the research when it comes to how you use cannabis and different diagnoses. When you have, let's say, a chemical imbalance, right? What does that mean? And what does it mean for you to use cannabis? Will it help? Will it harm? Those are some of the questions and some of the things that we're going to discuss today with our lovely guest, Miss Pauline Simone Smith. I'm so grateful that she was able to join us today. Greetings, Miss Paulette. Miss Paulette is a clinical social worker from Harlem, New York, and she is the CEO of Pauline Simone and Associate, LLC, a Baltimore, Maryland-based mental health counseling practice. And she is also the CEO of Canna Heals. I love that name. An organization that focuses on bridging the gap between medical cannabis providers and the dispensary. How brilliant. Such a brilliant concept and idea for a service in the cannabis space. You saw a need and you filled that gap. So, Miss Paulette, thank you so much for being here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us your version of how and why you came into the cannabis space.
Well, NIcole, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your audience for joining us this morning. I really appreciate coming on and being able to talk with your audience about mental health and cannabis. Those are my alley. Those both are my lanes. So a little bit about myself. I am a social worker. I'm a clinical social worker, a LCSW-C. I am a graduate of Morgan State University's master's program, their social work master's program here in Baltimore, Maryland, and that's where I'm located now. I came into the industry. It was a couple of ways, but I think that primarily it was because I am a medical cannabis patient. I am a medical cannabis patient. I suffer from a condition called ulcerative colitis, and which is a gastro disorder and disease. And so my gastrointestinal tract was inflamed for maybe 2 years before I had a diagnosis. And so when I got the diagnosis, I was given pharmaceutical medications to treat it. I call them horse pills. The pills were like this big, they were, so big that I had to take them one at a time. And so I was treating the condition, but I wasn't treating the whole body, which was my mood, which was my actual the cramping. I was still having flare-ups. It was ongoing. A friend of mine who was in the industry, cannabis that is, she mentioned to me, hey, cannabis has a lot of, anti-inflammatory benefits. You should come and come and hear this talk about cannabinoids and how they treat. Lo and behold, I went and heard Dr. Chandra speak of National Holistic. She spoke eloquently about the plants and about how it was treating and helping her a condition or in her family and so forth. And I was sold. So I went and I saw a practitioner or a provider who helped me get my card. And then it was birthed. I was in the industry from there. But that's where it started for me, where I took my medicine. And it also is where I learned that the information wasn't really there for everyone on the plant, because the provider I went to
That's
didn't
right.
explain what it was
Mhm.
that I was getting into. I just knew from Dr. Shonda's talk, I keep saying speech, but she was very eloquent that day. But her talk and my friends' talk about cannabis, but I didn't know THC, CBD, percentages, so and so forth. So
Right.
that's where I decided I had to get more information. So I decided to go into a master's program to learn more about
Wow.
cannabis. Yeah.
Wait, okay, so it's hard. Some people don't understand. So let me pause you real quick. You
Yeah,
went into a
sure.
master's program for
Mhm,
cannabis.
mhm.
Um, where did you take that course? Where did you sign
So
up for that? And what exactly was your degree, or what did you study?
So I will be finished in May,
Okay.
2022. This May
Yes.
coming up very shortly.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. The program is the first of its kind at the University of Maryland in Baltimore. It's an online program, 2-year master's program. I'll finish with MS, Master's in Science, with Master's in Science in Medical Cannabis Science and Therapeutics. And
Okay.
so I sought that program out. I just did a Google search, you know,
Okay.
and I found
Okay.
it, and that's how I got in it.
So not in cannabis specifically, right? So where did you go to learn about cannabis?
So cannabis, I actually went into the dispensary, the medical cannabis dispensary, and found myself going in daily trying to learn from the people who work there, which are called bud tenders or patient
Mm.
advisors. I
Mhm.
realized, NIcole, hey, I might know as much as they know. Let me
Mhm.
get a job. Let me get engulfed in this. And so
Mm.
I actually applied, got a job, and started working at the
As
dispensary
a bud tender,
as
as
a
a bud tender. Wow. Okay, cool. Okay.
yep.
So you mentioned Dr. and I didn't know that we had in common that you came into the space as a patient as well.
That's
That was my journey into this space
mhm,
after being diagnosed in 2017 with HIV. And I just became I immersed myself in the information about the plant as well. The history, that was
mhm,
really important to me. That's what brought out my advocacy side.
yep,
And then understanding that there was a gap, a lack of information,
mhm,
accurate information
yes,
that people were sharing and saying about cannabis. What is a sativa? What is it? All these things, right? And
mhm,
then once I learned about the endocannabinoid system, I was sold. But you mentioned Dr. Shonda, love her.
yes.
And did you find or seek out any other platforms of information about the endocannabinoid system specifically? Because I know that is not in most, college or university curriculum these days. So that was probably a separate type of search. Where did you find that information? Because a lot of people are looking for accurate sources of that as well.
So, NIcole, the program that I'm in, and everybody is not going to go get a master's. I
Right,
understand that. But the
right.
program that I'm in teaches all about the endocannabinoid system. It's
Oh, they
that's the
do.
name of it. The name of it is Medical Cannabis Science and Therapy.
Oh,
So
okay,
it's a
got it.
master's in medical cannabis science. So we
And this
learn
is at the University of Maryland, you
the
said.
University of Maryland. This is an accredited
Wow.
program. It's the
Is it
only one of
new?
its kind. I'm
Oh,
in
it's
the
the only.
second cohort. I'm in the second.
Oh,
Yes. So
wow.
I
That's
graduated.
amazing.
Yeah. The first cohort graduated last May. I'm in the second
Wow,
cohort. Yes.
that's fascinating. You're making history, sis. Wow, that's amazing.
I'm a part of a group of history makers. I
Yes,
Yes.
that feels amazing. So,
Yeah. Oh, we
the
lost.
University of Maryland,
Yes.
folks, I did not know that they had a medical cannabis program curriculum set up there. And I know we could add that to the list of Oaksterdam and all of these other universities that are providing. I know that there's one in Illinois, I believe.
I,
But that's good to know
yeah.
that there's actually state universities that are really being serious about this curriculum and this as a career, and educating, giving the option to educate about the plant and the science of the plant. That's exciting.
It's such a good program. The first group was, I think, maybe less than 50. My group is about 100 or so. We're about
Wow.
150. And
Wow.
so we're a cohort that meets online, and then we have symposiums twice a year where we can either meet in person, but obviously COVID stopped that. But this year in graduation, we'll be meeting in person. And so beginning to end, it's all cannabis. It's learning about the genomics of the plant, learning about the cannabis therapeutics, learning about the science. And so talk about well-versed. And what I'll say is, I know everyone's not going to go get the master's. That's
Right.
why I created Canna Heals,
Right.
because Canna Heals bridges the gap. I found that the provider spoke to me, but briefly, about what I wanted to do with the plant and how I needed to heal. So what I do is I teach. I do courses and help patients learn about the plant and help them to kind of treat themselves, because they see the provider maybe once, twice a year, if that. And
Right.
then what I do also is I help, as well as being a patient advisor or a bud tender. I go in the dispensary and I meet with my clients there, and I talk to
Mm.
them on site about the products that we sell.
That's brilliant. It's needed in every dispensary.
Yeah,
I could see
yeah,
Canna Heels everywhere,
yeah.
because it's
I
so
hope, I
needed.
hope, I hope.
Yes, sis.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's work on that.
yeah,
I love that so very much.
yeah.
Okay, so so your passion for learning about the plant came from your own personal journey to using
Yes.
the plant as medicine, like me.
Mhm.
And so uh, are they also teaching you about terpenes, of course, flavonoids, all of those things, right? Yes.
So it's all wrapped up in it. And it's
Okay.
interesting because I transitioned in my story to the practitioner, the clinician in me, the
Yes.
therapist in me,
Yes.
wanted to know more about it as well, because my patients, my clients are using cannabis
Of
to treat
course.
their mental health conditions, right?
Of
And
course.
so in this program, we're learning all about all types of conditions and how cannabis treats, or how it may not treat, or what the
Right.
research says or doesn't say. And so
Right.
I'm using that to treat myself, and then
Right.
also to take it over to my clients, who most of them, if you're coming through Paulette Simone and Associates, you're seeking mental health help. And
Help. Yeah.
Canna Heals, you may be seeking help, in a
In
myriad
general, and
in
yeah,
general.
other
Mhm.
other ways,
Other
right?
ways.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about this then. So
Yes.
now you recognize the need for education, specifically with cannabis and mental health,
Yes.
and then that passion turned into Paulette Simone and Associates, right?
So Paulette Simone and
And
Associates was
Associates,
birthed
yes,
first.
right. Okay, got it.
Because I'm a social worker. So I'm a social
Okay,
worker at heart, and I'm a
okay,
therapist. So
got it.
Paulette Simone and Associates came out of, I wanted to be able to treat people that look like me, Black and brown
Right,
people.
that's
And I
right.
was working in systems. I was working
Mm,
in Baltimore City public school system, and
mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm,
Department of Social Services system. And it was all
mm.
these systems, and I wasn't reaching the people that I wanted to. And
And
so
being able to provide them with the
and
resources they
provide them
actually need. Right,
all of that. And
right,
I
right.
realized not only that, NIcole, but because I was consuming cannabis to treat my condition, I needed to leave these systems before I got into some kind of
Prior, some
trouble.
trouble. Right,
Exactly.
right.
So I
Mm-hmm.
created Paulette Simone and Associates so that I could use my license to treat
Mm,
people that look like me, those that are seeking mental health help, mental health support, And then because I was able to do that on my own because of my licensure, I've built a private practice. And then
Oh,
Wheels was birthed. So that's how it goes. Yeah.
bless you, sis. Doing the work out
Oh,
here in the
wow.
community. That is amazing. And so you're based out of Maryland. That's
Based
right.
out of Maryland. Yeah.
Okay, but obviously, reaching out to you doesn't mean that you have to be in Maryland. Of course, you
No,
can.
not at
It
all.
just means you might not get the in-person treatment at the dispensary, but everything else, all of the services are provided online and can be provided digitally. Is that correct?
It absolutely is.
Absolutely. Okay,
Absolutely.
good. All right. So, what I want to get into and dig into is really focusing on mental health. Now that we understand how you're so knowledgeable about all these things, and your passion for it, and what you've built and created in your community to help your community, what how would do you approach mental health and cannabis? What do you tell your patients that come to you? I know from my own personal experience in dealing with family members and friends, how much cannabis has helped someone with schizophrenia, someone with bipolar diagnosis, manic depressant. I mean, it's a lot of things. That I have seen cannabis help those people with, but it might not be the cannabis that you think, right? It might not be the high THC cannabis in a smokable form.
Right.
Those things might not work for those people. And why? It's because of the genetic makeup of the plant. It's because of the effects that CBD and THC and these different terpenes have on those individuals that may have a chemical imbalance.
Right.
So, can you give us an idea of how you approach? How was your first conversation, so to speak, with someone who is wants to use cannabis or wants to understand how, in general, how to use more plant medicine to treat their chemical imbalance, let's say?
So typically what happens is I'll just take you from beginning to, first session, second session with a client. What happens is people will either find me on, a website or such. I kind of try to um, market towards brown and black and brown people because they need the help and the support. And so they may find me on a clinicians of color or so forth. And they see on my website that I offer cannabis therapeutics. So most people say, well, what is that? So I usually get a call. They know they want a therapist, but they also saw of cannabis therapeutics. So usually I get a call and it's somebody who's saying, I need a therapist. And first thing I do is talk to them a little bit about what brings them to therapy, right? Talk to them about what the presenting issue is. And that's just going to be standard across the board for someone who is a therapist like myself, who is reaching or is being sought out for therapy services. So I'll just go through those normal questions, if there's a diagnosis or so forth. Then usually people will slide in there. I saw on your website something to do with cannabis. And at that point is when I let them know I am a cannabis friendly therapist. I am a canna therapist. And so what I do is I talk with people and help them treatment plan around their cannabis use and their mental health condition. So I don't treat mental health conditions with cannabis. What we do is we use it as an adjunct therapy. And so that's what I like to let people know at the outset. I'm not going to be taking you off your medication in order for you to use cannabis to treat your bipolar or so forth. That's not my job. My job is to help you understand how the plant works as medicine, to help you to make maybe decisions about it if you would like it, and then just guide you maybe in the choices of products you take.
Got it. And that's where the education comes in with Canna
Exactly.
Heals, right? You
Exactly.
understanding, you're empowering the patient. And I guess people don't understand that have been smoking weed for years. They're like, weed works.
Yeah.
And we know that. But now that we have a better understanding of the plant and how it actually works with our bodies and different genetic makeups,
Yeah.
it's important that we tap into that information.
Have
Terpenes, cannabinoid profiles. These are the things, there are different modalities, whether digestibles is best for you, whether a sublingual is best for you, whether a
Mhm.
topical is best for you.
Yep.
That so many other options that we have now in
Mhm.
understanding how to best consume this flower. Um,
Exactly.
And so I think that this is great that you have come up with this concept that educates our community, empowers the patient
Right.
to actually be able to go into a dispensary or be able to look at a menu of products and say,
Yeah.
this is what I want, this is what I need for this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, I'm ready to order. And without, relying on anyone else or but
Yeah.
their own knowledge of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's funny how I didn't realize it now that we're talking, how much we parallel in what I have not earned my degree yet. But I love that this program exists because
Yes.
you said it's a 2-year program. Is that right?
2 year. Yes, 2 years, but it's online.
Online,
Online.
right. So
And
you don't have to go into a brick and mortar. That's
no, you
brilliant.
do not. You do not.
Okay. So you
Like
don't
I
have to be
said,
in one location. Just commit to the time.
just
That's
commit
it.
to the time. I've been
Yes.
everywhere I've wanted to be in this 2 years, and
Right.
I will be at graduation. But if I didn't choose to do that, I wouldn't have to.
You would still get that piece of
That
paper, that
degree is
degree. That's right.
coming on board. Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. So
So
uh go ahead. No, go
no,
ahead.
no, I was just going to get back to that kind of scenario of how we would get to terpene talk.
Okay, good. Go ahead, please.
So
Yeah.
basically, after the person, we decide, yes, we're a good fit. I talk to them about what cannabis therapeutics would look like. They say, yes, Paulette, I want to be on on your roster. Let's get started. And so then I will meet with the client as a therapy session, just as normal, talk about the condition, talk about the presenting issue. But then at the last 15 minutes or so, we'll start to talk about what they're consuming, how they're consuming, what dosages are appropriate for them, what's working and what's not working. If they're going, and hopefully what I do is walk my patients and clients through getting to their medical card, because here in Maryland we don't have an adult use program. I know you're in Vegas and you do. We don't just yet. And so I suggest all of my clients have medical cards, because the black market, the gray market, we're right up the road from DC, so people can go to their market. I just suggest it's the smarter thing to do. It's the more
It's the safer thing to
it's the
do.
safer thing to do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And
We
so
can't cross over
yeah.
state lines with product,
No,
with
you can't go
flour, and
exactly.
you
And
don't
so
want to risk that.
no, you
Yes.
don't. You don't want to do all these different things. You want to stay right where you
Mm-hmm.
are, consume on private property, do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's right.
so by the time we get to that 15 minutes, NIcole, we're talking about cannabinoids. We're talking about what's working, like I said, what's not working. In that time, I'm asking them about, drug interactions, and so on and so forth. And so that's the way it works for me. That's a patient or a client coming through as a therapist, for a need for mental health. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the way we go about it. Now, we talk about doing it with adjunct to medication, because we know the research shows that cannabis, if it is used alongside some of their medications, there's no contraindication. And so we know that we can use certain psychotropic medications as well
Mm-hmm.
as CBD and be okay. But we also have to be mindful of the way that it does interact. And sometimes in liver, if you're processing, the cannabinoids through the liver, it could change the components of some other
Medications. And
medication.
so that's important, folks. Getting with your doctor,
Mhm.
if you're living in a legal state, and that's usually the challenge, because a lot of the people that I speak with, and I'm sure now that you have Canna Heals, you speak with people too that are living in states where it's not legal.
It's not
And
legal.
so trying to get them to find a doctor that would even be willing to listen to them talk about their use of cannabis is hard.
Yeah.
And that's why you're so valuable to those patients that really don't have anyone to talk to about wanting to use cannabis or interested in using cannabis, because their doctors, if they're living in a illegal state, they
Yes.
probably will just tell them not to use it.
And
Um,
even in
yeah.
the legal state, you have doctors who aren't
Oh,
aware
absolutely.
of the endocannabinoid system and how,
Absolutely.
our, endocannabinoids, how the endogenous ones, they support mental health conditions and release of some of that serotonin and so forth. You know, our endogenous cannabinoids do that. And so when we have the added cannabinoids,
Phytocannabinoids, yes.
or CBD, we know that that helps to modulate the system and can help with mental health conditions.
Absolutely. And that's so important. I'm grateful that you are making sure that the patient has access to that information, and being able to compare it to their medication, because like you said, you could have some negative effects, and you want to make sure that
Yes.
people are aware about that. And so since we're talking about, maybe counteracting cannabis use with other medication, is there anything else known about cannabis? I know that I've heard of
Yes, hyperemesis. Yes.
hyperemesis.
Cannabinoids. Yes.
And so that's something that you probably learned about in your studies. And what did they say causes that? And what has the research said about how to slow that down or how to treat it? I mean, obviously they say stop using cannabis, but what do they say is the cause of it, and the side effects? Like, how do you know you might have this disorder?
So and it's unfortunate that the research that we have doesn't give us more information, but we don't know exactly what causes cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. We don't know exactly what causes it, but we do know that there is a connection between excuse me, high cannabis usage and the development of cannabinoid hyperemesis. And just so people know what that is, it's a condition that leads to repeated vomiting. So severe cyclic vomiting. So this is something that they say happens most often to people who use cannabis regularly. And this is, several times a day, and not just cannabis, specifically to THC, one of the chemical or the compound in cannabis that causes the psychoactivity. So we don't know exactly what causes it, but what they think is that in the digestive tract, because marijuana or cannabis, what it does is it can actually stop the feeling of nausea, and we know that it's done that, and it does that in cancer patients. And so we know it can cause the opposite effect, but it seems to be the chronic usage of cannabis may cause the opposite effect, which would then make a person have cyclic vomiting. And so what they find is that people who suffer from this, the only thing that stops it is a cessation of cannabis, which means what? Stop smoking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the only thing that stops this effect,
That's what
right?
they have right now. That's what they know
And
right now.
and we have to understand, like you said, you made it clear at the beginning that there's not a lot of research
Not a lot.
specifically on this disease. It's a small number of cases. We have to remember, because as an advocate, I'm always skeptic, right? When I hear an article or I read an article, I like going and doing my full research,
Sure.
just to make sure that this is not another type of propaganda, because there are people out there that do not want to see cannabis legalized. We have to understand that there's a very large and very wealthy adversary out there that is controlling the narrative around what cannabis can and can't do.
Yes.
And so we have to understand that even though there are white papers, and for those who might not know what that means, that is, research study papers done by doctors and researchers and scientists. So there's white papers out there that says, oh, cannabis is good for you. Cannabis, does this. It helps with nausea, stops convulsions, kills cancer cells. And then there's white papers and research out there that says the opposite. And continues to perpetuate some of that propaganda that we knew of, that started with Reefer Madness. It's continuing on today, and it's in a different way. It's a new age, so now the information is a little bit different, but it's all still the same.
Yes.
Once you kind of peel back the layers. A lot of things that we hear, and this is going back to mental health, is that, you know, it can cause psychosis.
Right.
THC can cause psychosis. But what we want to understand is that if you're using the right type of the plant, right form of the plant, right genetics, phenotype of the plant,
Yes.
then some of those psychoactive effects are not as strong.
Right.
And then you're getting the medicine that helps quell anxiety, that helps calm you down. That
Right.
means,
Mhm.
and so I want folks to understand that even though we see information and research coming out from both sides, we have to understand that the plant, as we know it, is medicine. And there are studies, there's research, there's curriculum, scientific curriculum that's being put out into the world that helps us to understand the plant better. So when you read these types of documents, or you see an article that you say, okay, see, I told you cannabis makes you go crazy, because you read an article that says somebody had cannabis in their system,
Right.
and that means that that's the reason that they, you know, went crazy.
Right.
But we have to understand that there are still people out there that refuse to accept the truth about the cannabis plant and what it can actually do based on actual research. And
Yeah.
what that means is making sure that you have a large enough pool of people that have been affected
Yeah.
by cannabis in this way that you can definitively say that this was the cause of.
Yeah.
So I hope that everybody kind of understands what I'm saying here. You know, we like to look at research. Once you're a research and scientist, you understand that it's important to make sure that you're reading the entire research. Make sure that they tested a large enough body of people.
Yeah.
For example, with say it one more time for me.
Cannabinoid hyperemesis.
Hyperemesis
Yeah, because
syndrome.
emesis actually being
The throwing up, nauseated, right? So this syndrome, how many people have actually been diagnosed with it? That's what we have to look at,
Right.
right? How were they testing whether or not they were consuming tobacco as well?
Yeah.
Were they just smoking it? Were they digesting it? Were they, you know, all of these questions were not present in the research, right? And so that's what those are the kind of things that we have to consider when we hear this type of research, or we, you know, try to understand better what this diagnosis is, from what scientists understand, because it's a fairly new disease. This is not something that has been around or has been able to be diagnosed, we'll say, until more recently. Okay. So let's get back to Canna Heals and how much you have, would you say, through developing Canna Heals, what has been your biggest accomplishment? Like, what are you most proud of? I know that, you know, you stepping out on your own, leaving the system of the government and the politics of all that, and starting your own brand. Let me start this. What has been your biggest challenge in starting your own business? Would you say, was it recruiting new patients, clients? And then I know we had a question from the audience, and we'll get that followed up as well.
Sure.
But yeah, what has been your biggest challenge, would you say?
You know, NIcole, I would say that the challenge for me is just getting the word out. You know, getting the word out about the need for this, to fill this gap. So when I meet people and I talk with people, they're always like, oh my gosh, yes, so important. But I haven't just yet, and I'll say just yet, have the reach just yet that I'd like to have when it comes to giving people this knowledge. And it just could be because I'm starting out. Paulette Simone and Associates, it's about 2-3 years old. Canna Heals is a year and a half old. And so, or maybe a year old now. And so, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time and just get people, you know, the word out. But for me, that's what I really want for people to understand, and what I really want my reach, people to get the understanding of the plant, right? And how it works as medicine, and the fact that it is such a pharmacy. You know, we study, like you said, the research. It's only studying, well, not only, but the research is THC, CBD heavy, right? We throw in a little CBN here and there. We hear about
CBG, right? But
know the full spectrum. And
absolutely.
so it's important for me to push into dispensaries, get their patients on board with knowing more. And
Right.
patients want to know more,
That's right. That's
consumers,
right. You're
just
not trying,
consumers, they want to
you're
know more.
you're not trying to sell the product in the store. Like that's not the point.
Exactly.
That's not how you
Exactly.
get a return customer.
Right.
You don't sell a product to an elderly woman that she doesn't need and it doesn't work
Right.
and it makes her feel weird
Yeah.
and she's not coming back. Right.
Right.
Then when somebody asks her, have you tried cannabis? She's like, no, it didn't work. It
It
made
didn't
me feel
work, or
weird.
it made me
Right.
feel sleepy, or so
Absolutely.
on and so forth. And so that's why,
Right.
for
It's
me,
important to empower the patient.
that's what
Absolutely.
it is all about. And that's what social work is.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I know we had a question earlier,
Sure.
so I want to get this. I want to ask this since we're talking about the dispensary. They
Yes.
wanted to know: did you have what credentials did you need to get your dispensary job? Because you're earning your credentials now. So did you? You know, you said you started as a bud tender. What else did you need in order to like say, you know, tell the dispensary I want to leave my bud tender job and start providing you all with this service?
So here's the truth of the matter. There's no qualifications that I needed to start. It was my personality, my
Mm-hmm.
willingness to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and my eagerness to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so when I started working at the dispensary, I was a patient and I was a foster care social worker. That's who I
Mm-hmm.
was. I wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
student yet getting my master's. I was
Mm-hmm.
a patient. And so I walked in, and like I said, I had been going there every day because I was trying to figure it out. Like, are these drops going to work? Is this, what is this 30% THC? What does that mean?
That mean.
So I went in there and I said, I like a job. I am really good at case managing, which means that I can deal with people coming in and out. And I kind
Right.
of sold who I was. And that's what got me the dispensary job. But guess what? Whoever asked that question, that's what Canna Hills does too. We teach people how to be patient advisors. So I have a whole course, NIcole, on teaching people how to be patient advisors, cannabis therapeutics. So
I
it's a
love it.
Cannabis 101 patient advisor training, and it's already packaged to teach bud tenders how to be bud tenders. So you could essentially come to me now. Right now it's no certification yet because we're building, but you can come to me and learn from a 3-year patient advisor. I've been in the business for 3 years now at a very successful dispensary here in Maryland. And you can learn from me a 3-session course on how to be a better or how to be a good patient advisor.
That's brilliant. I love it. Patient advisor. And when you're in an adult use market, we lose some of that.
Yes.
Unfortunately. And it happens in every state. Every
Yeah,
state, when they go from medical to adult use, it happens. We
yeah.
lose the attention and the passion behind selling products to people that need it as medicine. And when we look at this plant, I know I have several of my colleagues. We say it all the time. Whether you know it or not, you're using the plant as medicine, right? You might not think, oh, I'm going out to have a good time, or
Right.
whatever it is. You want to enjoy your run even more, or your hike even more. Like you're using the plant attaches to receptors in your body that enhances all of those things.
Yeah.
So, and that's the way I like to describe it. Enhances. But what it does is it medicates that experience.
Yes.
And so I think it's great what you're doing for patients and also training other people. There's some opportunities out here in Nevada. We've got consumption lounges that are getting ready to open.
Yes.
And so there's exciting things happening all over the country. And from the sounds of it, a program like yours would be brilliant here as they open up these consumption lounges, because what they've already talked about is having the consumption lounge themselves are going to be in charge, along with the health department, in training their employees, just like you get trained in food service. That's how they're treating cannabis here with these consumption lounges. So what's going to be important is training for those individuals, not just on what they're serving them, because here in Nevada, guess what? We mandate terpene testing.
And
So
that
all of our products have terpenes, the top 3 terpenes listed on the
you too.
product.
Yep.
So,
Mhm.
so we would be able to have the people serving them the cannabis, selling them the
Understand.
cannabis,
Mhm.
understand better when people have questions. And then because they'll be trying the product right there on site, as
Yes.
soon as they buy it, that's going to be a whole different experience, because people
Yes,
get
it
to
is.
try what is recommended to them, and they can, the data, the information that's going to come from, oh, this is how I feel, or this is how it makes me feel.
That's right.
All of those things. And then also recognizing when someone is too intoxicated, when
Yes.
someone might need a serving of CBD,
That's right.
of a heavy CBD product to help them quell the anxiety,
Mhm.
come down out of the clouds just a little bit,
Right.
clear their focus, to be
Mhm.
ready to, take on whatever it comes next here in Vegas, because it could be anything. But I think that is so important, and having that resource, being able to provide that training to those employees that are getting ready to be serving people cannabis, ready to consume cannabis,
Mhm. Yes.
I think is brilliant. So sis, come on to Vegas, come visit.
Listen,
We'd love to have you, and
yeah.
I think it would be great for you to meet some of the managers and the people, the operators that are going to be managing these different facilities here.
Yeah.
And it's a way. So folks, you see, you don't have to be, your product that your service that you're providing to the industry does not have to be touching the plant. There's so many other opportunities for you all to get into this space, build substantial, successful, sustainable services to the industry, and build a business that you become your own boss. You become an entrepreneur in the space, and what we call that. And I'm going to give a shout out to our and procurement programming, hosted by our lovely Lakeisha Camise. But what we do is and procurement talks to our communities, educates our communities, to how to get involved in the cannabis industry and the ancillary level, right? How to provide a service to the industry that doesn't touch plant, that doesn't require high capital or challenges to get into or open up and start a business. You don't have to apply for a license. Those kind of things. You don't have the barrier of entry of capital, having to raise capital in order to get in. But what you've done, what you've built is just brilliant. And I would love to see Canna Heals all over the country, all over the world, anywhere that there's a regulated facility. And so tell our folks, before we go, what would you say you feel like has been your biggest accomplishment so far? Like, what are you most proud of with Canna Heals and Pauline Simone and Associates?
It's the clients that I'm reaching. It's the people that are out there right now who are educated and who understand what they're consuming, that are going into dispensaries and that are empowered. So it's the 10 people who came through my course 2 weeks ago, who came through Medical Cannabis 101 and went to the dispensary and made their choices and walked out and was like, Paulette, I did it. I went in there. I said, I want Linalool, and they found me Linalool. I'm like, that is the accomplishment. My clients who are doing better because of their use, the ones that are using cannabinoids in a way that's helping them sleep or helping them with their I have a client who uses topicals for her cramps, and she is getting such great relief from just rubbing the topical on her abdomen during her menstrual cycle. It's her. Those are the people, and that is the stuff that makes me who I am and what really excites me about what I do, because I get a chance to hear people say back to me, you know what? I'm sleeping. And because I learned about CBN from you,
Right.
or not high doses of THC. We do know, yes, there are white papers that talk about high dosages of THC causing anxiety. We know it's true in some people. We also know it's not true in others.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, do you even know? Do you even understand? So it's the people who I talk to who leave better enabled to make choices.
That's
That's
right.
what it is. And I was gonna say, I was out there in Vegas. I took a trip with a friend, and I went to the different dispensaries. And so, adult use is coming to Maryland. We will
Yes.
get it soon. But
Right.
going out there was so enjoyable. And I went to the dispensaries, and I said to myself, I really could make a impact out here. I went to one of the social consumption lounges, and I'm like, they could know a little more,
Right.
I'll say that, and
Right.
more people could know more.
That's right.
And that's why I'm finishing this master's and will be out there with Canna Hill soon.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am. We welcome you. It's
yes,
needed. I
yeah,
mean, it's needed in a lot of states. It's needed in a
yes,
lot of places.
yeah,
That have a regulated market,
that's
right? We
right.
think that oh, they're open, they're adult use now, so it must be great.
Yep,
That's where not everybody is equal in that way.
exactly.
There's no national regulation around education of who can
That's
sell
right.
you product.
That's
So
right.
you have to understand that empowering yourself, taking the courses from Paulette Simone and Associates. Well, that's the therapy, but from CannaHeals
Yeah,
.org, right?
that's right.
That's how you find CannaHeals. CannaHeals.org is where you'll find the curriculum and the courses that will educate you to empower yourself to walk into a dispensary, know exactly what you need, and walk out feeling good about your purchase and knowing that you're going to use your flower for your daytime. You're going to use your topical at night. You're going to
That's right.
whatever it is.
I love it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's such a good feeling to know that you're not walking blindly,
That's
and
right.
really having more of a control over your healing process.
It
Um,
absolutely is.
and she's right. Lakeisha said, in my opinion, dispensaries should pay for training of their staff. She's absolutely right.
And
And
yeah,
that's what that they're going to have to. When we open up these consumption lounges, it's just like the training that they have to get for food service. They're also going to have to get training for cannabis consumption, how to recommend it, what to recommend, and then
that's right.
also how to recognize when someone is too intoxicated for safety purposes.
That's
So
key.
all of that training is going to be new to a market like Nevada that
Yes,
is opening up different organized that is opening up different new licenses, which are going to be consumption lounges.
that's right.
um
Mhm.
and so that's working with the dispensary, right?
That's
Because
right. Working with
you're right
yeah,
now, your programming is just working with the dispensary. That's where your partnership is right
yeah,
now. But
yeah.
if you think about it, that same partnership can be transferred over to a facility like a consumption lounge, where you have to train the individuals that are serving the people the
Mhm.
cannabis, because people are going to come and they're going to say they need it for different reasons.
That's
And
right.
so you be able to help them choose what is going to be best for that
Mhm.
experience. um,
Exactly. Exactly. And right now at my dispensary, which I'm happy to report, I'll be at my dispensary on 420 as a pop-up, and I'll be giving out some things that I like to use. It's a notebook. I love when people write down the information that they get from their about the plant.
Experience.
Yes, write it
Yes.
down. I got
Yes.
pinene
Yes.
works, alpha pinene doesn't work. This so I do
Yes.
notebook, I do a little handout. And so I'll be at my dispensary. If you're a medical cannabis patient, you can come by and see me, and I'll be signing people up for the courses, because I just do them weekly. Whenever people want to do them, I just do
And
them.
that's in Maryland. And
That's
where in
so it
Maryland?
can be anywhere, but I'll be at dispensary in Maryland.
Okay, and where's that in Maryland?
So that's in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh,
We're at
perfect.
Blair Wellness Center.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Blair
Is there
Wellness.
any other information that you'd like to share with our audience before you go? I know we've had your websites on our ticker down here, making sure that everybody sees that. You can reach her at paulettesimone.com and cannaheals.org. Anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
Just that cannabis and mental health is very important to understand that when you are using cannabis, you are at any level interfering with your mental health, because cannabis interacts with the CB1, the CB2 receptor, as we know, and other receptors, and it changes the cycle, the activity in your brain. And so it's important to understand what you're consuming. when you're consuming it and
Mm.
why. And so for
Mhm.
me, whenever, even if you're consuming for your leg pain, if you're consuming for your back pain, you should understand how cannabis affects your mental health so that you can be better suited for whatever activities you're trying to do or you're consuming it for. And so
Right.
for me, just understanding how that works for you, how your mood changes is so important. So even if you say, well, I'm not using cannabis for depression, I'm not using it for anxiety, you are changing the chemistry in your brain. And so you do want to see, am I feeling a little bit more anxious when I consume, or am I feeling a little bit more relaxed? That's important to note. And so for me, mental health is a myriad, it covers a myriad. And cannabis, as we know, is a pharmacy and covers a myriad. So,
That's right.
you know, Canna Heals is here. Paulette Simone and Associates is here for you. I'm just here to help everyone, specifically Black and Brown and underserved communities and populations who have not been awarded the benefits from the war on drugs. My role is here to stay because I really want to make a change and help.
Thank God. God bless you, sis. I
Oh,
mean, you're doing God's work for real.
thank
You really are out here saving lives, and using the plant as the catalyst to bring people in. Thank you so very much for
you.
all your hard work. That's right, Lakeisha. Mental health does matter, and so many of us, Black and Brown people, are dealing with trauma that we don't even know how to process, right?
Yes.
That is your mental health, folks. If you don't understand, like when the depression, the anxiety, those things are caused by all of the images that we are getting fed, all of the things that we see live happening in person. You know, there are summers in Chicago that look like Syria right now, or the Ukraine right now,
Yeah.
right? That happen
In
every summer,
Baltimore.
year after year, in Louisiana, in the
In
list goes
Baltimore.
on and on, in
Yeah.
Baltimore,
Yeah.
right? So, and these are communities that are affected by that because they see it. They're
Yeah.
affected by it because their friends are dying, and
Yes.
their parents are getting locked up. I mean, it is rough out here for us, and unless you're
Yes.
living it, you really don't understand. Unless you know people that are in these communities, you don't understand.
Hmm.
And so, what you're doing is so very important, and I'm so grateful that we could help shine a light on what you're doing. Share this platform with you. It's my honor to share this platform with you today,
Thank you.
sis. And I loved learning from you. I'm so grateful. I'm looking forward to you coming back to Vegas. Please
Yes.
let me
I would
know when
love
you
to come
do.
back. I would love
Um,
to come back.
I think that there is definitely a place for you here at M for MM. So I'm hoping that we get to see something from
Yes.
you very soon. So look out for that, folks.
Yes.
But thank you so much. And like Stanley said, I want to read this comment.
Yes.
PTSD is not just a problem that veterans suffer
Nope.
from. Anyone can suffer from PTSD. He's absolutely right.
PT,
Anyone can.
anyone can. And the thing,
Mhm.
I'll just say this. Many of my clients have dual diagnosis, co-occurring
Mhm.
diagnosis. So there
Mhm.
will be an underlying PTSD diagnosis
Mhm.
there, or actually the main diagnosis. And it might not come from direct trauma. It could be what they consider vicarious trauma, right?
Mm.
Are under you hear about trauma, and maybe you work in the system, like working in a system, you can hear about traumatic situations and then be develop vicarious trauma. There's PTSD from neighborhoods, the way where we live, our
That's
community.
right.
And
That's
so
right.
yes, very much so. And in bringing it back to cannabis, we do know that there are cannabinoids that can help with treatment of PTSD. Please,
That's right.
there's research, there's white papers on that, and
Yes.
we know that there's anecdotal information that people are treating PTSD symptoms. Remember, they're symptoms. They're not you. You're not
Not a
PTSD.
diagnose.
You
Right.
are not
Yes.
the diagnosis. The
Right.
symptoms, there's cannabinoids that can help treat, and there is research to say that.
That's right. That's right. And there's other plant medicines too,
Other plant
folks.
medicines.
We've
Yes.
got, that's, I realized in about 2 years into my career, I used to call myself a cannabis patient and cannabis advocate, but I'm a plant medicine advocate
I hear
because
you.
I know how important it is to recognize that there's a lot of plants out here that can help you heal.
Yes.
And I know psychedelics there's a lot of research on what psychedelics can do to
Yes.
help with
Ketamine.
trauma,
Yes.
with PTSD, with all anxiety, a lot of things, depression.
Mhm.
And so I'm a big advocate for understanding how to use plants as medicine.
Excellent.
And so I'm so grateful for the work you're doing, sis. Thank you
Thank
again. It was such a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better. And I look forward to doing some things with you in the future. I really do. I
Yes.
think that there is definitely some synergy here. And so thanks again, folks.
Thank
You
you.
can reach Paulette at paulette@cannaheals.org. Of course, reach out to her on the website, cannaheals.org. Paulette Simone and Associates. And then, of course, on Instagram, you can reach her at simone.paulette and at canna.heals. Thanks again, folks. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Health is Wellness. We are at the end of March, folks, 2022. I am headed to the the Source Dispensary located at 2550 Sahara Rainbow Boulevard here in Las Vegas, Nevada for our expungement clinic. So that's from 12 to 4 Pacific time. So if you're in Las Vegas, you've got a charge and you want to get your record sealed, please join us for Project Clean Slate today. Thank you again, sis. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a great Saturday. We look forward to all of the events that are coming up for 420. We know that is next month. Join Paulette in Baltimore if you're around on 420 for her pop-up at, what is the name of the dispensary, Paulette?
Blair Wellness Center.
Blair Wellness Center. If you're around 420 in Baltimore, please join her for that and let her know that you saw her on M for MM's Health is Wellness. Thanks again, guys. Have a blessed one. Thanks again, Paulette. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.